Good evening, everybody. My name is Brad. I am the host for this evening for our IG Live, and I interview yet another amazing guest that I've had the opportunity to talk with and enjoy my time talking with. So, with that, I'm going to introduce my guest a little bit, as well as myself, and can't wait for us to get started here. I know that she has just logged on and wanted to join. Just waiting for her to push that join button. With that being said, my name is Brad. I am a life coach. I help with deconstruction, specifically with deconstructing from religion, as well as other forms of deconstruction, whether that has to be with family, whether it has to be with friends, whatever it may be, I cover it. So with that, I am always looking forward to helping people through the process of deconstruction. I have a website. It's coachingwithbrad.org. And there we go. There's my friend. So you can find me there. You just go to my bio and my link, and I will be more than happy to talk with you. Feel free to DM me. With that, my guest is here. How are you doing this evening? Can you hear me? There we go.
I'm doing great. I apologize if there's a... Yeah, I can hear you. It's a little laggy, but I think it's catching up.
Okay. Very good. Very good.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you
There
great.
we go.
Thank you for joining me.
Sometimes it takes a minute.
Yeah, that's okay. It does. It's technology, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Have you had a good day?
I have had a wonderful day. Happy fall equinox to everyone.
Yes, it's exactly how I thought that the fall would kick in for us here. It's raining.
There you go.
Yeah. It's exactly what I
no better way to reflect on the end of summer than with a dreary, rainy day.
Gray and rainy all day long, so it's been fun. When I usually kick these off, I know you and I have talked a little bit. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you do, all the exciting tidbits about it.
So, hi everyone, I'm Mira. By the way, thank you very much, Brad, for having me. I'm very excited for our conversation. So, I am a Master Certified Mental and Spiritual Wellness Practitioner. I own a wellness company called Moon and Rune Wellness, where I do one-on-one, remote and in-person guided wellness sessions. So, they consist of a few things. The majority of it is talk therapy, which is something that a lot of people are aware of and have kind of experienced in the normal therapy world. It's where you sit down and you talk about what happened for the week and, sort of have someone usually sit on the other end of the couch going, and how does that make you feel? So that's where it ends as normal talk therapy for me, because I don't sit there and go, how does that make you feel? You know how it made you felt. That's why you're talking about it. Probably didn't make you feel that good. And so the main difference for me is, one, that I incorporate spirituality. A lot of people ask me why, and the question for me really is why not? Spirituality has shaped such a large part of the human psyche and culture and politics and literally everything that we experience on a day-to-day basis as human beings. So I feel like it has to be involved. And spirituality, for some people is the concept of religion, and for some people it's things like little rituals that they do when they meditate, like lighting a candle. Realistically, it's anything you do that deepens your belief system. So I incorporate a lot of spirituality. I also incorporate a lot of basically tools, if you will, and I teach people many of the tools we've been given that we don't necessarily view as tools anymore. Things like time and your mind and your imagination, which oftentimes we use for lots of other things, except not so much for ourselves. Another main one that I teach about is the concept of language. How many of us go day to day using language all day long, and we don't really think about how we can be using it positively for us, especially in our own mind. So that's kind of the main difference for me. I also work with people on a concept called emotional alchemy, which is learning how to take perceived negative emotions or negative experiences and learn how to alchemize them inside of you in a way that becomes constructive and beneficial through your perception. Kind of by learning how to ask yourself the right questions about what you learned, what you did get from it. Take the good with you. And I also approach people with a concept called subconscious cognition therapy, which is basically teaching people about mindfulness and understanding and being aware of in the present moment the connection between their thoughts and the reality that they're experiencing. So why relationship with self is so important is largely because of that.
Wow.
To be aware of that.
That right there is a lot.
It is.
I mean, that's a lot.
Very different than someone who sits across the couch and goes, how did that make you feel?
So I had someone ask me the other day, they were interested in how you came up with your name, your Instagram name. What made you pick that?
Nemofon.
Oh.
So I actually chose that name mostly because of the way I've defined it. For those of you who don't know, Nemo is a word that in Greek or Latin basically means, it's poorly translated to nothing or no one, but it basically means nameless one.
Okay.
And fawn is a derivative in many more tribal spiritual traditions that is related to the spirit. So basically it's, for me, it's nameless spirit, which is to say sort of without the ego. I'm here to, be who I am without the sort of narratives driven upon me so that I can help you learn how to be the same way, hopefully.
That's outstanding.
And I'm not perfect at it, but I'm getting there.
That is outstanding. What a great choice for a name. That's awesome.
Thank you.
That's great. Okay, so obviously we have a lot to unpack here because you what you had to say and what you do is incredibly, yeah, I would agree with APOC Punisher, deep. I don't know. I mean, I love the depth in which you think through things and your intelligence. That's one of the things that struck me the most, right? As soon as I started talking to you a while back when we had a conversation, I'm thinking, man, there is depth to you. It's not the shallow surfacey. You have thought through things and come to your conclusions and everything, which I really appreciated. So, well done. It's impressive. That being said, I just was curious. What is your spiritual background? I mean, and how have you changed? Where did that come from?
So there are a couple ways that I've been shaped by that. One is that, as we spoke about previously, I have been very, very lucky to grow up in a very eclectic and diverse area. I grew up in the DC metropolitan area, so I have been surrounded by, I mean, pretty much every culture, religion, faith, group of people you could think of. I'm sure there are some that I have not been exposed to, but it did teach me that there's not just me and my perception in the world, right? Or, there's not just like these 5 main religions. It really helped me open my mind, and I truly see that as a blessing. The other thing that I was very lucky with is I grew up in a home where we were not, spirituality was a part of our life, but our parents were basically of the concept that you take what serves you from learn about everything you can and take what serves you and what resonates with you. And build your own belief system. So I was very, very lucky with that. We explored a lot of religions with that. My sister for a time and I too began to practice Mormonism for a while. Obviously we stepped away from that. There's nothing against it, but it was a great experience. We got to learn, I found it very interesting to learn about a whole nother sect of Christianity that I had no idea about. And that's been a great aspect too, is even learning that within the major religions, right, there are so many of these little sort of offshoots that have their own way of thinking.
Right.
What that really taught me over time is, so somewhere along the way, someone was like, oh, I'm allowed to think for myself and make my own religion for me. So basically that's what I want to teach people. I want to teach people that, the purpose of spirituality, hopefully for you, is something that is benefiting your life. Just like many of the other things we experience in life, spirituality is a tool, which means that it is intended to make your life better and easier. So if you're using spirituality in a way where you feel used by it, that's not really the goal of spirituality. That's not why it's come to be. And so helping folks kind of let go of some of the limiting beliefs that they've accepted, even at a subconscious level over time, even if they're not someone who practices religion strongly, there are many narratives that we've all kind of grown up with as sort of overarching themes of what's right and wrong or good and bad that have been even sort of societally given, not even necessarily religiously given. But as I said previously, that comes along with the fact that religion has shaped a large part of society. And so sort of impossible not to be exposed to it at some level or another. And my clients range the gamut. I have some folks who are, really diehard religious people that, are Catholic or Christian. And I have some who, are just now coming to realize they want a sense of spirituality, that have before this time really never had a kinship with it or felt a calling to it.
Now, it's interesting because you said a lot of people mix religion and spirituality together. They tie it together. Do you have, I'm sorry, this isn't even one of our questions. You just got me going. Do you have an idea or a thought on the difference between religion and spirituality, or is there a difference? Uh-oh. There you go. Did you hear that question? I noticed we got the spinning wheel.
I did. I got it through the slow-mo. So yes, to me, there is definitely obviously a pretty inherent difference. Of course, it depends on the individual definition, but to me, the main difference is with religion, it tends to be fairly structured, and it tends to be something where, you're not necessarily your own authority on your belief systems. That there is something exterior to you that is your authority on belief system that is setting the rules, whether that be a person of religious hierarchical form or authority, or a form of scripture, right? It doesn't matter the religion. There's usually some sort of, for lack of a better word, rule book. And then there are authority figures who carry out the rules and are kind of the people that you're allowed to go to for guidance. There's not a lot of establishment of, inner voice concepts and really figuring out who you are as a person. It's more so about being a good citizen to your religion, basically.
Okay.
Is the way I would put it. Spirituality, to me, on the other hand, is sort of the exact opposite, which it is to say it understands itself as something that is completely centered within you, that, there are no dogmas, there are no rules are for thee, rules are for thee and not for me, because the rules are only for you. In spirituality, you don't go around telling people what to believe in, basically. There's a strong belief that it's individual and unique to each of us, just like we are, and that the purpose of it is to help us really find our sole purpose, our unique reason for being, and thusly must be unique along with it. And of course, our inner voice, just like we are, is unique as well. And so being able to hear that is a large part of what comes along with spirituality, which does not reside well with, being told what the voice is supposed to think, basically.
Right. Awesome. Well, listen, I know in the bio, you kind of, the intro, you kind of told us a little bit about yourself and what you do, but I know that's one of our main questions. If I'm walking into your office and I come from, let's say, generally a lot of people come from some form of religious background, and I'm looking to get help from you and deconstructing and then reconstructing, if we want to call it that, my spirituality. What do you do? How do you help someone with that?
So the first thing is for me to ask you the right questions for your own introspection. You
Mm,
know, I am here to help along the way and give tools and techniques, but the main goal in the beginning, especially for someone who, you know, if you're already coming to me and basically saying, I want to deconstruct away from faith, you know, I know you've already committed to the idea that what you're following isn't making you feel good, and there's an
mm,
openness with that. But I'm also very gentle with that. You know, I don't expect anyone to take something that has been such a large portion of their life and their identity and
mm,
just like throw it out the window. It's not a super healthy way to go.
mm.
And also, there's a tendency to still let it have power over your life, right?
Yeah.
So I want to teach people how to not let it become something that's powerful over them just because they're angry at it now. So that's another one of the main goals that would be approaching with someone who's deconstructing.
Mm,
But basically, my questions are going to be, you know, really about bringing you back to square one with spirituality, which is to say, you know, what do you find to be the purpose of religion or spirituality in your life? What does it do for you? And a lot of people, even who have been practicing religion for years, have never asked themselves that question.
mm.
So I really start there because I just want them to realize, oh, it's okay for me to think for myself, one,
Right.
and two, ask what religion or faith or spirituality is doing for me. That it's not that you exist solely for the purpose of being in service to religion, faith, or spirituality.
Yeah, that's such a paradigm shift. I feel like because it's hard to think that. You know, growing up in religion like myself, it's always what can I do for my relationship with religion or some form of spirituality instead of what can it do for me? Um, because you're taught to kind of self and be all in, you know,
Right.
in
And
that. So,
there's a concept driven in from a very young age in many of those groups that it is selfish and wrong and
mm,
unhumble to want something in return from your faith or your religion.
so you just described my childhood.
Yeah. I'm sorry.
No, no,
But,
and
you
all
know,
for years after that. So yeah, I get it.
here's a fun change in perception scenario that I give a lot of my clients, which is to say many of us go through a life where we feel like we suffered through something. We experienced something traumatic that, you know, after experiencing it, we realize we don't want this for others and we don't want it for the world. You know, there's something that needs to change or evolve from it.
Hmm.
You only know how to do that and how to become the person you are today, doing what you do with deconstruction, by experiencing the problem firsthand.
Mm.
So I kind of do this thing with people where I'm like, you know, let's say you were able, you know, before you enter life, basically, you got to see the full gamut of what was going to happen, and you got to see the result of
Hmm.
all the things, you know, all these things are going to happen, but this is the result. And you
Yeah.
saw the result and you were like, that's a better world. Think I'm in. But that is to say, you're going to have to experience, you know, you confidently said, I'm in, knowing that you were going to have to learn firsthand why these things don't work, why they don't feel good, why you want to change and become who you are to help make the world a better place to live your purpose.
Mm.
So that's another one I kind of, you know, again, a perception or belief that I sort of share with people as a tool to look at life differently. And it doesn't matter if you're someone who has experienced religion in a way that didn't feel good for you, or if you're an addict. A lot of addicts stop being addicts and then they go on to be people that help others out of addiction. But until you experience that firsthand, it would be impossible to know the things that need to change.
Wow, that's excellent. Um, is there any way to get that without experiencing it? Because I would have liked to take that avenue instead, you know?
um, Unfortunately, I would say no, right? Because
Right.
you don't know until you know, and you can only know by doing. So
Unfortunately, that is correct.
yeah, but you get a result, right? It's kind of, sometimes I describe it like, I don't know if anyone grew up with those chapter books where you would get to the end of a chapter and you could like pick what page you were
Yeah.
going to next.
Yes.
So life's kind of a little bit like that. And the funny thing is, even when you like go through different versions, most of the time you come out with the same end result. So you're going to make
True.
choices, right? And your path may be different, more difficult, less difficult based on those choices. But the good news is you're probably still going to get your desired results.
So it's all an illusion, is what I'm hearing.
Oh, but it's a beautiful one. I'm not telling you to hit the road and run out of the matrix. I think we've all contributed through the form of consciousness and experience and existence with one another to make the world what it is today. It's not perfect, but we've put a lot of work into this illusion. It's a pretty beautiful piece of artwork, in my opinion, and we just need to rough out some of the edges. Maybe like clean it back to its original.
Okay.
Some of it's.
I'll buy into that. That's okay. Next question is, what's your spiritual life like now? How would you describe it?
So my spiritual life is life. And I know that sounds kind of cliche, but
There's,
I try.
I know there's a deeper meaning to this.
I try to let my spirituality be constantly evolving and be completely organic. So that is to say, I'm always learning more. I love learning about other religions, other forms of spirituality that have existed over the years, where they intersect. Some of the archetypes that have existed since the dawn of time through all of these different forms of faith and spirituality. But there's always something new to learn. There are always new forms. And I still hold the same belief that I was given as a child, thankfully, which is that if something new comes along and it resonates and it pushes an old thing out, that's okay. We're not meant to, like, spirituality is a living, breathing thing. It's us, ourselves, the way we live our life, for me at this point. So, of course, there are rituals and things that we do that deepen belief. For some people, the most spiritual they're going to get is blowing their candles out on their birthday. But anything that, deepens either our belief in self or belief in something greater than us is spirituality to me. It's not something so finite and definable anymore as written in a book, if you will.
All right. Very good. So, Informal Mystic, also known as Blair, says,
Hi.
you are speaking my language. I need to let Blair know as well that the question you asked about why she came up with her name or how she came up with her name, I believe that was you. She answered the very beginning of the live. So you'll have to go back and catch that right before you hopped on. So with that being said,
Well, thank you for that awesome question, Blair.
It was a great question. It was and your answer was awesome. With that, what are the most common issues you have seen with your clients?
So the most common issues I've seen with clients are belief-based.
Mm-hmm.
The irony being, for most people, when I say belief-based, most people think automatically like something put into them by the church they went to, or scripture or something along those lines, some moral I don't know, infirmatory, if you will, that's been given to them by society. The truth is that for most people, the belief systems that are the worst and most self-harming are ones that are things like they look in the mirror and the first things they say to themselves are untrue and unkind beliefs that they have about who they are as a person. Mm-hmm. So it really, like, when I say spirituality is you as a living form, that's what I mean. If you get up in the morning and, the first thing you do you to feel bad about yourself and to buy into a belief that you're not complete and, you know, perfectly imperfect, if you will, as you are, that you are here to exist uniquely as yourself. Those are the beliefs that I want to start deconstructing right away. So many people have a lot of beliefs based in sort of narrative definements of things, which is words like success. A lot of people, if you ask them, are you a successful person, are going to tell you that their internal belief system says no. But we know that that's pretty untrue for most people. You know, if you could take someone else off the street and ask them to look at that person's life and say, do you think this person's been successful? And they're going to say yes, for the most part. Not always, right? It depends on their definition of success. But basically the goal there is to say, okay, well, how do you define success? Again, for most people, they go, oh, well, I've never really defined it other than defining it away from myself, believing that I'm not included in it. Right. And so that goes along for things like success, the concept of whether you are wealthy or not. Interestingly enough, the word for wealth is actually a word that existed before money did. So there is something for people to think about as far as how they define wealth. Another one is usually around what so for many people, things like emotions are viewed as weaknesses. And so in emotional alchemy, I teach people how to make that perceived weakness the strength that it actually has always been by sort of building a relationship with that emotion and dispelling the belief that, you know, emotions like sadness or anger are wrong or bad emotions to have.
Well, that's interesting because when you talk about emotions, a fair amount of religions say that emotions, you can't trust them, that they're not good with that. So
you silence that inner voice. We don't want any of that. Is basically what they're saying.
So let me ask you this next question. I'm really fascinated to know this is, what are the best practices to find healing and balance in one's life?
So, unfortunately, I can give you my answer.
All right.
But it is something, you know, one of the biggest things is realizing that those answers have to come from you, that you have to spend the time figuring those things out for yourself by being present and aware in your daily life, like not just going through the motions, realizing that you're worth it to actually check in with yourself, to want more for yourself, to want to feel better, that there's nothing wrong with you for wanting that, right? So that's sort of the main start. Having a relationship with your emotions is a huge one. Realizing, you know, that now your anger probably is pretty loud and obstreperous because you've pushed it away for so long, but that at the end of the day, it's a part of your inner voice that's always been showing up because it doesn't like the way you're being treated. So, you know, especially for the folks that are in the deconstruction community or who have grown up in these religions where some things were told to them and there was anger that they suppressed. Now, as they come out and they're deconstructing, they're realizing, oh, darn, anger, like, you are always just trying to protect me. Instead of, I describe it as, you know, the current paradigm for most people is that they get angry at their anger. And it like becomes a vicious cycle where your anger comes forward and you're like mad at yourself for allowing yourself for being angry.
It's a vicious circle.
It is. So, you know, affirming and accepting that your emotions do want to show up for you in a way that's constructive, that they do care about you, but that you're going to have introspect and speak with them. You know, when sadness shows up, taking a moment to say, I understand that you exist for a reason, sadness. Why are you here? How can we come to a constructive approach to what you're sad about that's going to truly serve us instead of, you know, be something that tears us down or causes bigger issues or stresses in our life. And as far as balance goes, that one truly comes down to you accepting that, one, it's okay to have peace. There's this thing that a lot of Taoists talk about, which is monkey mind, which is the part of our mind that has attached its self-worth to productivity and checking boxes and solving problems. So here's the issue with that. If you're looking for peace or balance in your life, the second you get that peace and balance, your monkey mind goes, but all my self-worth is gone. I don't have any problems to solve. And then your mind starts trying to think of problems to solve. So
right.
there's a true, moment of inner awareness where you have to accept, have I been doing that to myself? Have I been looking for battles because I've attached my self-worth to the concept of winning? Have I been creating more problems in my life because I've attached my self-worth to being able to solve them, instead of once you solve the problem and create peace for yourself, actually being able to experience the joy and pleasure of peace. The other big one that comes along with being able to find balance is actually defining your neutral. So for a lot of people, I'll kind of describe that one, but for a lot of people, when they, start their day out, they tend to define a day as either good or bad. So if you don't have a neutral, guess where peace lives? Guess where balance lives?
Wow.
If you haven't defined that space and your brain can't find anything inherently hugely positive from the day, it's going to start to autonomically try to define it and categorize it as a bad day. So knowing your neutral, knowing when to say, okay, I'm just sort of here today, and I accept the peace and balance of that. There's some little things that have happened today that have stressed me or maybe piqued my emotions, but there's also some good things that have happened today. Nothing extraordinary in either direction, but I'm okay with that. I accept my peace instead of looking for another problem, basically.
That's so true. I mean, a lot of times I have in the past, even in the present, been like, well, was it a good day or bad day? And kind of do your checks and balances on what that means for you as an individual.
Good old duality, the church's favorite.
Yeah, but then again, based upon our past, I think that whether it's religion or anything else, we have been programmed to look at life like that. We've been programmed to think that it's either A or B. And where is the middle ground? So that's brilliant. Yeah, I love that.
So sometimes the practice that I try to teach people is literally, if you're let's say you go to think about how was my day today. One, you can do something where you make it scalable, right? And this is actually a tool that I teach people. It's a tool called the SUE scale. And it's basically for you to start scaling or attaching a real number to experiences throughout the day to give you a true awareness of how much things affect you. Because that's another thing we do too, is something bad happens to us and we just go, oh, well, it made me feel worse or it made me feel bad. But we don't actually take the time to say, oh, well, it made me, on a scale of -10 to +10, if I was at 0, oh, this event made me go -3. Or this event made me go +5. And when you start doing practices like that, you actually start really accepting and realizing, one, the things that aren't serving you and that don't make you feel good, so that you can start pushing them out of your life. And two, you start realizing the things that do make you feel good. So when it develops a sort of neural resiliency for the days that, are uncontrollable, where something, bad or extremely stressful happens that brings your scale down, you have this whole list of things that you now know through your present awareness and making things scalable that you can do to bring your mood back up, to make that day a little less negative and overwhelming for you.
Wow. Okay. Brilliant. I love it. So, that being the case, wow, that's a lot to take in. tell us a little bit. I know this is something we talked about. Tell us a little bit about your training and you know uh, background. I don't think we really covered this a whole lot at the beginning. We probably should have, in psychology and other things like that. What do you feel like is your specialty?
So I would say my specialty is bridging those worlds for people, that realizing that science and spirituality can and should coexist. That we are truly at a place now where we're starting to realize that maybe they always did, and we didn't fully have a comprehension of that. As people start to understand more about what energy is, what we truly are in the world that we live in, and how much of that experience is, as you stated, technically by the terms of science and physics, an illusion. But a beautiful illusion nonetheless. And there's a lot that we can come to understand through the metaphors that have existed through a lot of these forms of spirituality. The main thing that I've come to realize about almost every form of spirituality and religion that I have researched and learned about is that they have always been a metaphor for the inner journey of the human psyche and the human mind, and realizing how to marry the subconscious with the conscious mind. So a lot of us, for me, I'm mostly Jungian when it comes to psychotherapy aspects. And Carl Jung was someone who believed in spirituality. He believed that there are things, that are past our perception. As far as we live and exist in the material world, he believed that, things like our dreams have things to tell us, mostly through metaphor and symbology, which is a large part of how most of scripture works, as we figured out. But, that's really where I married the two, is realizing that there are things that will occur in your life that through metaphor and symbology, or through the concepts of spirituality, you'll be able to understand better because of the tools of psychology that help you see them more. So to me, there's really, teaching people that they can and should coexist is the main thing. And also how making them coexist is how you truly find your true self, your purpose, and feeling like a whole human being without the necessity for others. Which isn't to say you won't want other people in your life, but the good news is you won't feel a requirement for others. It will, once you get to that point, you really just know that if it comes, it comes. If it goes, it goes. It's okay. And the things that, serve me, I serve back, that there's reciprocation. And if they don't, then I'm allowed to put myself first and, say that this doesn't behoove my energy or my life or my purpose, basically.
So what you described there to me sounds like somebody finding that inner core, that peace of life. Is that correct?
Pretty much.
Okay.
That's the goal.
Okay. Okay. Awesome. And by the way, I loved how you brought back my illusion comment, because you make me sound really smart like that. I appreciate that.
There are a lot of highly intelligent people that study things like atoms at a very molecular level who very much agree with you. Because the reality is, even that cigar or that tobacco pipe that's in your hand,
yeah,
you're not technically touching it at an anatomic level.
No.
I don't know if you knew that.
I did not know that. I just figured it makes me look smart.
So you have the perception of holding it and feeling it, but yeah, you have the perception of holding it and feeling it, but the reality of what's happening at a subatomic level is that there are atoms vibrating and exchanging energy forms in a way that you perceive touch, which all starts with photons or light. So for those of you who love the love light,
yeah,
photons are pretty much the only way that we can experience our existence, which is pretty cool, actually.
So no matter how tight I hold it, it's just the way you broke it down is ingenious. Okay, so I can never smoke my pipe now again the same way. I
I'll send you a book. There's a great book actually that's called You're Imagining Things, that talks about it. But yes, basically we're living in an illusion of, our collective conscious, this beautiful thing we've created. And so that's another one I'm really big on is, I do not believe in the whole, once you realize it's all an illusion, going, oh crap, I got to get out of the matrix. We built this collectively. It's, we are at a place now where, now that we understand that, we can be much more thoughtful and reverent toward the greatness of it all, the unity of it all. Mm-hmm. But prior to that, we've just been sort of waiting around for other people to tell us what to do with it.
I have to tell you that you keep describing about getting out of the matrix. I'm too old and tired to try to get out of it.
Yeah.
Out of the matrix.
I don't know. I kind of like the matrix. Like, I go on walks now, and things like adorable acorns or butterflies bring me joy. And that wasn't when I had a 9 to 5 and was being told what to think, I would not have found joy in those things. But I have a much more, I've been blessed to be able to not have to do that anymore. And it's brought me, a strong awareness of truly how powerful the human mind is, that your thoughts and your relationship with self really create your reality. It's your perception. And you have some choices to make about how you want to treat yourself, because it's going to come back to you in the real world.
I believe that Informal Mystic is loving everything you have to say right now. She said Jung is her hero. She talked about detachment. She also says, yes, it's a balance between settling into the illusion and holding in our awareness. That's such a sweet spot, is what she said. She is she's on board with you, and you're
gonna.
She's now your new best friend, it seems. So,
well, good. I don't. There aren't many people that I get to talk about these things with, aside from my lovely clients, of course. But I'm always happy to make new friends.
She's very wise in these ways as well. So I think you guys would kick it off really well.
Yeah, I think I commented on a few of her posts last week that I found pretty funny. So I definitely know I already like her.
So tell us. How can we get in contact with you? What do you have coming up? Obviously, I am going to push your page because I love your page.
Thank you.
I walked away from our conversation the other day in the Zoom conversation, just loving everything you had to say, and fascinated. It blew my mind in a lot of ways too. So, because I've been a person that's been in the box of religion, right? So thinking about the things that we talked about and the Matrix just blew my mind. And so for anybody that's on here that's listening, please do drop by her page, like her page, go to her bio, go to her webpage, everything, because she's awesome. So tell us, what's the best way to get in contact with you?
So the best way, honestly, is probably either through Instagram or email. My email is guidance@moonandrune.com. You can also go to my website, moonandrune.com. It's listed in my bio for my personal Instagram as well as my business Instagram. I hope anyone in here who's not already following me will follow either one or both. I share a lot of the tools that I talked about today, as well as just quotes that I find either inspirational or mind-opening, and things that are helpful, for mental and spiritual wellness and mindfulness. And I also have a lot of resources deeper resources on my website under the tab Self-Discovery. So there's all sorts of information there if people are sort of interested in opening the box a little bit. Most of it is stuff that's intended to really help you think for yourself, to open you to new ideas and new possibilities as far as, what spirituality can be, what your mental wellness and relationship with self are. But email, either through my website or through direct message. You can always direct message either of my Instagram pages, and I will respond. And I do actually always do my first session with everyone for free, because I want them to get a chance to experience it and see if it feels right for them. No offense taken if it doesn't. I think that, as long as you're on the journey to speaking with someone that's helping you open up and feel more comfortable with your sense of self and sense of spirituality, that's what matters most. But I'm always open to first-time sessions with folks as well.
See, I think that's dynamite. And the majority of people I have the chance to interview have a similar concept as well. Like I have one as well. And the beautiful part about it is it's a free call, free conversation to have with you or me or whatever have you, but we're not in competition with each other. We just want people to find that, right? I mean, so it's really neat because there are people that will come to me that will recommend to somebody else because it's not my forte. And I know this other person could help with that. Like I would recommend people that say to you, because you'd have a better handle on something than I ever would. So I just love that unity amongst coaches and therapists and everything like that that goes with it. So that's awesome. And so I'm just excited about the work you're doing. I'm hoping that we'll get to see even more of you, podcasts and other things.
Yeah.
And
you as well.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. So I'm excited. So with that being said, thank you again for coming on here, sharing your heart and your profession with us. And thank you for the spirit that you've brought across. And thank you for, I know this is going to sound weird, but thank you for your intelligence.
Thank you.
I know it sounds weird, but
genuinely.
You're very, you're very well spoken. You're very mindful. You're very considerate towards other people's thoughts, and you don't speak down to them. Like the whole time we had a conversation, you could easily whipped out a whole bunch of big words and lost me in a matter of seconds. But you didn't do it. You put it in a very understandable way, and so I think that's encouraging. And we need people that can do that, but also carry that intellect. So thank you very much for sharing all that.
That means the world to me. Thank you. Really. I super appreciate you saying that, honestly. And thank you for what you do. I do what I do, but there's a lot that from your life and your experience that I couldn't even come to touch as far as, what you've learned about that part of religion and how to help people that went through what you very much as well for, coming out the other side, choosing love and not fear,
right.
As we discussed previously, and for continuing on the journey to help others heal also. Like you said, for me, there's no competition. I want every person that does this work to feel successful and to, find the right clients for them, because there is more than enough to go around thanks to society and religion.
Yeah, you're right. You're very right. So, hey, thank you. I'll probably hit you up a little bit after this video. I'm going to go ahead and post it. But once again, I just can't say thank you enough. So I look forward to talking to you in the future as well.
Thank you. You too. Bye.
All right. Have a good
night, everyone.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for being here.